think what nobody else has thought. As said by Albert Saint Gauge. Very exuberant evening to one and all present here. Today, once again, we have gathered for a 10 days training program or FDP on step-by-step guide to write a good research paper that is being organized from 9th of June 2023 to 18th of June 2023. Today is the day 6 where we will be learning about hypothesis development and testing. Before I proceed further, I would like to thank Research Foundation of India, RFI, that has organized indeed one of the most exuberant session that is based on the research methodology. I'll just take few minutes to introduce Research Foundation of India with everyone. It is basically a registered organization under the MP government 1958, and it is also registered under the Government of Indian Society Act 1973, that has its basic motive, or that is dedicated to promoting social upliftment and enhancing the quality of higher education and research in India through various activities such as organizing international or national conferences, seminars, workshops, symposiums, and other events. RFI basically has the mission, and that it aims for the higher education that a research society aims to promote and advance knowledge in the field of education, particularly higher education. It encourages scholarly inquiry related to education and promotes the use of research to enhance education and serve the public good. Additionally, I would like to mention that RFI aims to foster innovation and facilitate the exchange of intellectual ideas worldwide. In order to keep up with the increasing demand for higher education, RFI is dedicated to enhancing capacity building efforts in this field. Thank you so much, RFI, that with your commendable efforts, we are in the capacity to organize such a session. Basically, RFI focuses on enhancing the educational process by promoting scholarly inquiry and evaluation related to education and by facilitating the dissemination and practical application of research findings. RFI has its prime focus on research and development for higher education and was previously known as the Foundation for Research. The organization additionally conducts various in-house activities such as workshops, training programs, and conferences, and engages in outreach activities such as publishing journals and books. The growing domestic and global demand for higher education presents a significant challenge that requires expanding capacities in this field. The Social Research Foundation is dedicated to enhancing the quality and standard of higher education while ensuring a suitable balance among teaching, scholarship, and services. To achieve its mission, the Indian Higher Education and Research Foundation of India plans to establish a research center with its own library, publish national and international research journals, organize seminars and workshops, and provide research scholars with comprehensive guidelines and information on higher education research. I must say kudos to RFI once again, that with the due reference of RFI and with the due commendable efforts of Research Foundation of India, once again we are in the capacity to organize such a conference. Thank you so much, RFI. Additionally, I guess the speaker could not join due to certain network issues. We can hold on for a few minutes. Let our speaker join for the day. Till then, we can have a one-to-one interaction on the outcomes that we have seen with reference to the research, the workshop that is being organized. I would like to have the interaction with the all the members that are present. That it is basically the 6th day of the research methodology workshop, and I guess that we all have been taking so many outcomes from the research. May I please have anyone from the team who can able to who is in the capacity to explain the outcomes that the person has taken in all the 5 days? Anyone who wishes to speak is free to speak in that case. The outcomes that you all have taken in the 5 days of the FDP or the training program that has been recently conducted. Anyone who would like to come up and speak a few words? I guess the interaction would be quite good if we have certain members from the audience also who say something, the outcomes that they have received past 5 days. Is my voice audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, members from the team, I'm still waiting. If you could please come up and say a few words with reference to the conference that is being conducted. I guess no one is willing to come up and speak something. Okay, no issues. Till the time our guest speaker comes up, the topic that is registered for this faculty development program is a step-by-step guide to write a good research paper. I guess when we talk about the term research paper, it's basically a paper that is oriented towards our research. And I guess we have too many doctorates here. We have research scholars also here, or might be the persons who are not the research scholars but are working in the corporates as well. And wherever we find this term research, that is always oriented with searching something new. As it goes without saying, when we have the term research, research means re and search, right? So I guess most of us would have come up with this topic or with this thing that what is this research all about? Anyways, so the speaker of the day has joined, Dr. Charul Jain, ma'am. Uh, I would just take a few minutes to introduce ma'am. Dr. Charul Jain is currently with Symbiosis University of Applied Sciences, Indore, as Dean of Students Welfare, Head of School of Interdisciplinary Sciences, and Associate Professor. Contributed 20 years in the domain of teaching and training. She owns 5 copyrights and 1 patent under her name. Copyrights include Career Burger, Corporate from Focus, and Winning at GD, Patent Convenient Bottle Design. She has also written 2 ISBN books and is an IPR consultant as freelancer. Dr. Jain has developed various training teaching techniques. Government of India, NSDC and MSME has certified her as a master trainer for skills. She is an honored speaker of World Record Award winning event Global Peace Summit 2021 on student skill development for sustainable development in the industry 4.0. She has recently conducted a chain of FDPs for schools, principals, and teachers on various aspects of teaching and learning pedagogy and clinical psychology. AICTE certified in Design Thinking, Management 4.0, and Financial Analytics. Dr. Jain is an expert in employability skills training and has successfully guided placement for more than 5,000 students till date. Recently, she has been certified by IIM Ahmedabad for rocking LinkedIn profile and advanced Excel Atal AICT portal for blended learning and flipped classroom and design thinking and by TCS ION for employability soft skills. She has conducted numerous training programs in various organizations, Radio Police Training School Indore, Police Training School Panchmari, and so on. Since past 4 years, she is associated with Fast IAS Academy also. Academically, she was awarded her PhD in 2013 from IMS and she's continuously dedicated to employment training and to train, share, and enhance ethical and authentic research practices. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Team RFI and Shreya Shukla ma'am, for introducing me here. I request to confirm if I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
You're audible, ma'am.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for joining together in the session for hypothesis testing and development, basically. So we would move towards having an interactive session. So we all would go through a journey where we'll try and realize what is hypothesis, why we need to develop, what is the logic behind developing the hypothesis, what is the concept behind that, and are we going in the right direction. So first of all, just have a blank understanding. Whatever we have done, we will share with each other and we will go together. Fine. In any case you have a confusion or a question, you all are free to talk about. To begin with today's topic, I would love to understand how many of you are still writing a research paper, or on which all topics, or few of you might be writing your research thesis. So can we share a bit of that so that we can have the discussion in the correct direction? We can have the hands on. You can raise the hand and I'll request the members to participate. Okay, so Archana ma'am, then Archana ma'am, can we please share your views? What kind of research you are writing? Archana ma'am, you are not audible. Are you speaking? Okay. Then can we have Meena Lard ma'am? Meenal Lard ma'am.
Hello.
Hello ma'am.
Yeah. Actually, I am not doing any research nowadays because I am already PhD. But some of my students, they are taking some topics for PhD, and I am related to Ayurveda
Okay.
faculty. So, when doing hypothesis, that is the concept is there that for PhD, so many hypotheses should required for the research. Is it true?
Okay, we'll move on to the question and answers in a little better.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
right. So I just
Then,
want to understand, are we in the process of writing the research or thesis or any kind of
yeah, yeah. I,
analysis?
yeah, I am now writing a protocol for extramural research.
Okay,
That
extramural.
grant in aid from Ayush Ministry.
Okay.
The title of the research is the role study the role of Jingi Shardi. Jingi Shardi means these are the herbs. Uh,
Okay.
okay, the two herbs, Jingi Shardi in um, dysfunctional menorrhea.
Okay.
Huh?
Fine.
Then,
Something into herbs you are doing for the
huh,
benefit of the health of the human being.
yeah, yeah.
That is what I could understand. All
Hmm,
right.
hmm.
Perfect, ma'am. Thank you. Then can we have it from Amitabh, Dr. Amitabh, sir?
Hello, this is Dr. Amitabha, ma'am.
Okay, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I take my
No, no,
words
no,
back.
no,
Dr.
it's
Amitabh.
every time it was happened to me. Actually, I have a field of IT, information technology, and I am PhD in information technology. And right now, I am doing work on research project,
Okay.
cloud computing security. I am working since last 2 months. I have gotten project from.
Okay. It's a government funded project.
Yeah.
Seed funding you may have received.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Archana, ma'am. Okay, Archana ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Hello,
Yes.
ma'am. Am I audible to you, ma'am?
Yes, please.
A very good evening to you, ma'am. I'm from education background, ma'am. I'm right now I'm doing my PhD in education, and my research title is Role of Information and Technology in Modern Education System.
Interesting. Very nice. Fine, ma'am. Thank you. So this is the PhD title or it's a research paper title?
It's a research paper title, ma'am.
Okay. Fine, fine. And we have one message from Reddy Harika ma'am also, that her research area is sickle cell anemia among the tribal women. Fine. Thank you so much for giving the inputs. Now I think I'll be in a good track to discuss hypothesis development and testing in the right direction. So fair enough. So let me just take it forward. We would start with understanding the concept of hypothesis. Many of us have already completed our PhD. So more or less the hypothesis remains the same. The concept remains the same, but let us try to understand in depth what more we need to develop during the hypothesis. So I will just share my screen and please let me know if it is visible to you. Is my screen visible to you?
Yes.
And is it moving?
No.
Yes, ma'am. Now it is.
Now it's not.
All right. So I think it's due to the network issue. So the slides are working fine.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. So today we are here to discuss about the hypothesis basically. First thing, many congratulations that you people are still, we all are still writing the research. It is a part of your intellectual property. So whatever research paper or thesis you write, that becomes your copyrighted property. So that is why when you publish in Scopus, Web of Science or anywhere else, the publisher sends you a copyright form. Maybe a thesis, maybe a research paper. So that ways you are actually increasing your intellectual component in your research. Today, when we are talking about the hypothesis, it is something which we talk in terms of, is it true or it's not true? So let us just try and understand how we structure or how do we come to a hypothesis rather than just understanding through slides. So first of all, I'll take you to a thought process journey. I have not unshared my screen yet. All right. Okay. I'll take you to a small journey. When you do a research, we try to speak, we have some result in our mind. For example, somebody spoke about the IT field, somebody spoke about the health, somebody talked about the contribution of education techniques or new techniques in education. So we have some result in mind. So any one topic, let us take. Let us say blended learning has a contribution in learning, in higher education or maybe in college learning. So are we all okay? Shall we take that blended learning?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. That gives us a base to discuss today because I believe in having a practical discussion rather than a theoretical discussion. So let's say if we were writing a research paper or conducting any sort of research, maybe for thesis or anywhere else, we have some end result in our mind. So to reach to that end result, is blended learning, does blended learning has an impact on increasing the learning in the students of higher education? Let's take college education or master's education student. So in this case, we are trying to understand the college education, the master's student with the help of blended learning. So now here, the outcome is very clear. We all can see that since 2020 or 2019 till 2020-23, there is a huge contribution of blended learning to the higher education learning. I am sure that we all will agree upon. And in fact, during the pandemic hit 1 and 2, we all have also moved towards the blended learning. Online quizzes, online learning, sometimes Moodle, sometimes there are so many quiz and assessment tools which are available online. So blended learning, we are also doing a blended learning right now, virtually connected. So these all tools have given a positive impact on the learning of the students at the master's level. That is what we want to study. Now, there are two things which are very clear. First, the outcome, the result is very clear in my mind. The second, there are two variables which become very clear in my mind. The cause and effect. Either I call it a cause and an effect, or I call a dependent and an independent variable. Dependency kya hai? What is the outcome? Increase in learning for the higher education student, or let's be very specific, increase in learning in MBA students. So this is the dependent variable, dependent on the basis of blended learning. So now we have two variables, very clear and precise. Independent, the blended learning, sources of blended learning, different types of blended learning, and dependent variable जो इस पे dependent है, ठीक है, इस पे dependent है, अगर मैं ये base हटा दूं तो ये result नहीं दे सकता. So that dependent variable is increase in learning in MBA students. So now when these two things are clear in my mind, one is the expected outcome, second is the dependent and independent variable, then I need to see what kind of statements am I making. First question I asked to myself, does blended learning has an impact on the increasing learning of MBA student? If I ask you this question, what would you say? Is there any impact, positive impact of blended learning on the MBA students? Just say yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Now to prove your yes, we need to make hypothesis.
Yes.
This is the outcome which we all are mentally, mutually together upon. Now, anything which is being said has no value. We need to support these words with research, with some facts and figures. So to do those facts and figures, we'll have to develop hypothesis on the basis of variables and subvariables. So now for that, we have independent and dependent variable. Now, how will we write hypothesis? We say exactly the opposite. Right now, we said yes, blended learning has an impact, positive impact on learning in MBA students. We said yes. So we want to prove it. So what we write in null hypothesis is absolute opposite. This is the best way of understanding the hypothesis. We write absolutely opposite first. We say that there is no significant impact of blended learning on increasing learning in MBA students. First, we try to deny to this first hypothesis, that is null hypothesis. That is why it is called null, null and void, right? So we say there is no significant impact of blended learning on the learning of the MBA students. So we have null hypothesis. Whatever we have objective in our mind, we try and deny that at first. Then we have alternate hypothesis, which is the true statement, which says there is a significant impact of blended learning on the learning of increase in learning of MBA students. So first, we develop these two hypotheses, null hypothesis and alternative. In null, we deny the fact, we deny the truth because we want to prove it by supportive facts and figures. And in alternative, we say the truth. Okay, so if I have to simplify, I say a false statement, then I say a true statement. Thank you so much, Prakash sir. So I hope we all are together till here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Now
Yes,
now it comes how to write the hypothesis, how to develop hypothesis which supports my research. If I say independent variable, blended learning has a lot of tools and techniques. बहुत सारे. I think you may be able to tell me at least 10. And if we are total 97 here in the meets, we can tell 97 different tools of blended learning which will impact to the learning of the students in MBA. No, we should never have. We should have precise and clear objective in our mind. So during hypothesis testing, not only the final outcome you will keep in mind, you will also keep in mind what is the objective behind writing this research paper. So let me say that my intention from blended learning
Ma'am, your voice is not coming and it is paused now.
paused.
Yeah.
Ma'am, the voice is breaking in between. You are not audible in between.
Okay, let me just try out.
That's a network problem, ma'am. Nothing else.
I think yes.
Not at your end.
Okay.
Not
At your end.
end. Yeah, you're audible now, ma'am.
All right, perfect. So yes, another third thing which we all have to understand is what is the purpose behind writing this research paper. I cannot have, I do not have to study all 97 tools of blended learning all at once for one research paper. Highly no. If condition applied, if the objective is to assess out of 97 tools which is more effective, then yes, please, you can study all those 97. The question is, what is the objective behind my research paper? If you want to study which are the top 10 blended learning tools which have impact on the increasing in learning in MBA students, then yes, take all 97. Then your hypothesis becomes very clear. Testing the hypothesis, like it becomes blended learning tools having an impact on learning in MBA students. So then you will have sub variables or sub hypotheses. Can we name a few? Prakash sir, can we name a few of blended learning tools? See, any
the mix of online classes and offline classes.
Yes, online and offline classes. Any kind of LMS which you are using, learn management system, any kind of games which you are using,
Yes.
any kind of
Google Classroom.
yes, you can use any kind of
Zoom, Google Meeting.
Yes, Moodle is a perfect example which globally we all are using.
Right now.
Correct. Mentimeter, yes, very good. This is used for creating the live questions and creating the response from the audience. Perfect. Now, if your objective was to test those 97 and find out which are the most effective 10, then yes, you will have sub hypothesis 97 that Mentimeter has an impact on learning in the increase in learning in the MBA students. So that is one way directional thinking. So here in hypothesis, I'm increasing the sub variables of independent variables on the dependent variable. Try to understand my fourth perspective. The first perspective was to understand why I'm creating hypothesis. What is my outcome in mind? Second, dependent and independent variable. Third, if you want to write, please, you can write that down. Third perspective which I have is keeping the objective in mind. And fourth, are you escalating? Are you discussing the dependent variable or independent variable? Just try and find out. अभी हम one way ले रहे हैं, okay, one perspective ले रहे हैं. Fourth perspective, we are discussing if in case we are increasing the independent variable. So there are 97 or maybe hundreds of blended learning tools having an impact on learning. So here I'm not at all bifurcating the types of learning of the students. Here I'm only bifurcating the independent variable. Mentimeter, LMS, Moodle, Google Meet, Zoom, WebEx, or any other thing. Are we all together?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Right. So abhi maine na drop it. I have just showed.
And Zoom meeting.
Yes, Neeta ma'am. I have just sent the sub-variables from the independent variable, wherein my dependent stays the same. This is one way of doing the research. In this case, you will have sub-variables or sub-hypotheses in terms of your independent variable. So Moodle has an impact on, Moodle does not have a significant
Ma'am, your voice got interrupted. Ma'am, you aren't audible.
Okay, I hope I'm connected again.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Fine. So I hope that we were together. Okay. So we have created hypothesis and sub-hypothesis using the independent variable. So that is the fourth perspective. What in case I want to study the nature of learning? What in case I want to understand the nature of learning of the students? So again, the objective of my
Ma'am, your voice is not coming.
Voice disruption.
Am I back?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now I was saying that let's just imagine that in case we were
Ma'am, your slides are not visible.
hello.
Slides are not visible.
Slides are not. I'm not showing the slide right now. Don't worry. I am just discussing. I will share the slides once we have the entire discussion together. Right. I'm not moving the slide right now. Takin sir and Amit sir, are you saying something?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Please, I request to keep on mute because. Fine, I'll just try and accommodate with that. So now one side of the story we have completed, that we keep the independent variables and we bifurcate them in sub-variables, and then we create hypothesis. This is one way of doing it because it depends completely on the objective which we carry for our research. The second way of doing it is I am defining my dependent variable and creating sub-variables of my independent variable. So let's say the learning, increase in learning in the MBA student. What kind of learning are we expecting? Here we will try to bifurcate. So if I'm doing a research, I want to train the students for employability skills. So I will look for practical aspects of subjects. I will look for learning. Okay. I will look for the final learning. Ma'am, is it possible we can mute Ahmed sir?
I am mute, ma'am. There is some other person where from the voice is.
Ahmed sir, I'm saying. Not Amit sir, Ahmed sir.
Done, ma'am, done.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sorry, because I lost it. No problem. So let's say if on the second side, we are trying to find sub variables of our dependent variable, learning, increasing in learning of the MBA students. So here, what kind of learning am I looking forward for? Maybe in terms of employability skills, maybe in terms of, let's say, industry readiness, maybe in terms of application of the theoretical subjects, maybe in terms of self-evaluation from point to point or time to time. So let's say these four I want to check with the students. So now here my hypothesis would be the blended learning, the sources of blended learning have a significant impact on self-assessment learning of MBA student. So here I am bifurcating the sub-variables of dependent variable because that is my study. I want to study more in depth on my dependent learning, how much learning a student is getting out of the blended. So I hope we are together.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
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 We are trying to create branches. We are creating branches altogether. Now I need to identify whether I want a pomegranate as a independent or I want a guava. So I'm deciding upon. So right now I'm moving towards guava, a dependent variable. So let's say if I'm creating a null hypothesis now, so there is no significant impact of any blended learning tool on the self-assessment learning in MBA student. My second null hypothesis could be there is no significant impact of blended learning on increasing in industry readiness in the MBA student. So now now I have bifurcated my definition of learning in the MBA student. So we have to keep the N in mind, and then we have to define whether I want to study more of independent variable in my study or I want to study more of dependent variable in my study. Then only I will create branches of my hypothesis. Fine. Can you see this? The easiest way of remembering is I have my fingers opened. So independent variable, if I want to study independent variable, the techniques of online learning or maybe blended learning sources. So I will create branches from here, wherein my dependent variable stays the same. But if I want to study the types of learning, then I will create my branches from dependent variable and sub-variable towards the independent variable. So I hope these two things are very clear to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
By branches, you mean the sub hypothesis?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. This is how I try and project. If I make some actions, it will be there in your mind forever.
Yes, ma'am.
This is independent. This is dependent. So if my objective is to study independent variables. So I keep my dependent variable constant and I create sub-variables to study this. So
Yes.
lot of sub-variables in my independent towards the dependent. So this is supporting. And in case I want to study more of dependent variables, then I will create sub-variables in my dependent and will try to support the independent.
Yes, ma'am. Understood, ma'am.
Perfect. So now these two will depend on what is the final outcome in my mind, what value creation I want to create for the audience who will read my research paper. This is how we must do.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So now from here we will take it forward. So from now here, let's take it forward that null hypothesis says there is no significant impact. I'm lying about my statement because I want proofs. It is as equal as saying I don't need blood and oxygen to be alive. Is it true? There is no significant impact of having oxygen and red blood cells and white blood cells to be alive. Is it true?
No, ma'am.
No. So we have
No.
to deny to this null hypothesis. So my alternative hypothesis says there is a significant impact of having red blood cells, white blood cells, and oxygen in my body to stay alive. So a hypothesis is exactly the same. Why am I saying it this interactively? Because when I do a research, I fully get engrossed to it. I presume what I want and what is the final outcome in my mind. So 4 objectives, 4 perceptions we have created, and we are moving forward towards the extensive discussion of the same. So here we all have come towards a common consent how to label the variables, what kind of sub-variables we should create from independent and dependent variable. And now we have also understood how we are going to structure and interpret the hypothesis. What is my final objective to escalate, to discuss independent or dependent? Accordingly, we'll say the false first and then we'll say the truth first, truth at the second. By definition, a hypothesis is something, a presumption or a prediction about the relationship among two variables, two major variables, that is independent and dependent. So it's a relationship. So we are trying to define the relationship. It can be a correlation, regression, maybe comparison between two groups, maybe ANOVA, whatever you want to apply. That completely depends on your research. So this is clear that it is a prediction, presumption about the relationship among two or more variables based on the theory, or let's say based on the objective final outcome in your mind. What a researcher wants is absolutely his or her research area. The same topic can be thought by you in a different way and for me in a different way. Let me support it with an example. How many of you, Tasu sir, I will take your question in a while. How many of you like to have a cup of Indian chai? Just raise your hands there only, nothing else. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6. My goodness, lovely. If during the session, if somebody gives me a hot cup of chai, I would love to have that. Great. Fine. How many of you like coffee during a session? A hot coffee, strong hot coffee. Just raise your hand. Next couple of people. Okay, I get hands. Perfect. See, my way of explanation is a little different. Huh? Perfect, perfect. So I can see there a number which shows that people who like having Indian traditional chai is more than having coffee. Now I'm talking to people who actually consume. Please put your hands down so that I can see the numbers next coming on the way. People who consume or who love to have chai, Indian tea, how many of you like minimum 2 teaspoons of sugar in it? Okay. Yeah, Davis likes it. Nandini, wow, great. Now, does that mean people who like absolutely half teaspoon or 1 teaspoon of sugar have wrong definition of Indian traditional chai? Yeah, 1 teaspoon maybe. Yeah. Meha? Meha ma'am, I would like to ask you now.
I said no because other people can have their own perspective.
Exactly, exactly. Just give me one moment. Huh? Just give me one moment.
माइक म्यूट हो गया मैम
Thank you for supporting. So yes, I was saying now with a perception, people having 2 teaspoons of sugar in a cup of tea versus people who love to have just 1 or half teaspoon of sugar in a tea, is it wrong or right on either of the end? No?
No, ma'am.
No, it's its own perception.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It's a difference of perception. Similarly,
Yes,
when you
different
conduct your
perception.
research, looking into the same statement would be different for Neeta ma'am and would be different for me and would be different from Amitabha ma'am. So the same title can have different variety of discussions. So nobody has a right to say your research is wrong or my research is wrong. We have our own perception, what I want to discuss. Now the sugar can also be a brown sugar or white sugar or jaggery. So now these are variables. Fine. So this is what I wanted to bring here
It may be
on the table. I hope the example connected to you because I like to give examples which are relating to you.
Yeah, very much, very much.
Thank you. So yes, the variables have to have a relationship among two. Now, hypothesis also relates to the author, to the researcher who is writing the research. And then hypotheses are being developed. So this kind of discussion was very much needed. So that's how we did that. Considering the importance of hypothesis, we need to do direct observations. First, most important part is why we do that. The importance is we need to do direct observations on the variables. Now, these variables can be on my left, having the independent, or on my right as dependent. So I need to have that clarity in mind. So first, direct R, give direction to our observations. Give direction, left to right or right to left. Give direction. The second is describe the relationship. What kind of relationship you want to say? It has a positive relationship. It has an impact. You want to see the comparison. You want to see the increase or decrease. What do you want? Let's say if Amitaba ma'am wants to see impact of blended learning tools or in decreasing the learning or in the MBA student, she can do that. Because dependent and independent variables are same, but she wants to see the decrease. I want to see increase. Somebody might want to see, is there a correlation? Right?
Very true.
Absolutely up to you. The same title can have different perspectives. So first, please direct your observations. Second, find what kind of relationships you want. Third, please refer to the population. The population for whom you are writing the research, the population about whom you are writing the research. So is it going to give any contribution to that research or to that population? Find that out. Then we have different functions of hypothesis. No, we can have what we want to see. The title which I said here, the second point which I said here, describe the relationship. Continuing to the same, let's just find out, are we finding the correlationship between the variables? Correlation means, or regression. Right now what I discussed was correlation. One to many or many to one. But we can have even regression coming here. Multiple regression coming here. In case of multiple, it will be too many subvariables from my left, from my right. So it is like a hibiscus. It's like too jazzy. It's like a web. What am I trying to create? Display absolute difference between one or two populations. I would always suggest you, please define your research. Accordingly, you define the population. Now, in case of this third point, display the difference among two or more populations. Let's say, example per se, if I'm saying the impact of blended learning in MBA students. Now, these MBA students can be of an age of, let's say, 19 to 21. They can be executive MBA of 24 to 30, or they can be distance learning MBA 31 to n number of years. So now my population is different. The samples coming from different population would be different. So please define it very carefully. Demographic, age-wise, what are we trying to find out? Which population we are trying to implement? Or we are trying to just say cause and effect, like I started with. So please define what you want out of it. It is as simple. These are words being shuffled here and there, but things are very simple in terms of hypothesis. What objective I need to fulfill, for whom I need to fulfill, what will support me to fulfill. Just write that and define that correlation in your mind. What is the relationship between these two variables? And then do it. Simple as that. When we write the hypothesis, this gentleman defines mean, the central value. This is actually known as mu. We all know this. This is for population mean. We always use the Roman letters to represent the statistics. Most of the time, how we write is hypothesis, null hypothesis, HO, null hypothesis. Then alternate, we write H1. This one I'm talking about. So population 1 and 2, mean of population 1 and 2. These are just on the basis of objective. It may not be true for all of us.
Excuse me, ma'am, are you just using PPT? We are not able to see your PPT.
You're not able to?
See your PPTs.
Okay, just a moment. Let me just try and come back.
Your expression shows that you are using, so that's why I just
Yes,
interrupt
I
you.
was
Sorry.
using. Let me share my entire screen so that it becomes visible. I hope now that should work for us. So I'll just take you from the first one so that we all are together. Okay. All right. Now is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible now.
Fine. So now what we discussed was labeling the variables. Then we talked about grouping the variables and what it actually means to us. So the assumption, presumption is completely based on the authors and researchers, what they want to study. And the importance shows whether I want to have, we need to give a direction to our research. We need to find out the relationship among the variables and refer to the population. What population am I studying? Why am I studying? And here I was talking about different functions of the hypothesis, what hypothesis does. So it estimates about the population, maybe MBA of regular MBA of 19 to 21 years of age or 24 years of age, maybe a distance learning, maybe an executive MBA, maybe MBA at IIMs, or maybe MBA in government colleges. What is my population? How am I defining it? So maybe that. Maybe the correlation on my left, on my right, how am I defining it? This slide, how we represent the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. We say null is H0 and alternative is H1. This happens when we are comparing and writing the nomenclatures. So this is what we have. There are different kind of research hypotheses. So sometimes we need to do statistical hypothesis as well. Fine. I will not move directly into the technicalities, writing the way, but mostly when we write the hypothesis, talks about the variable. So the research hypothesis gives a statement. It basically gives a statement of relationship among two or more variables. So always, whether any kind of research you do, the first hypothesis is always null. So null denies the fact, null denies the outcome, and alternative always says the truth. It supports the outcome. It accepts. It can be both directional and non-directional. That actually means, am I proving something or am I just justifying something? Right? This we need to see. We don't have to get into so much of detail because our intention is not to write a research paper on what are the different types of hypothesis and its implementation, but our objective is to understand the correct way of writing the hypothesis, developing the hypothesis. I think that we have met. The objective we have absolutely met. Non-directional hypotheses are something where you do not specify the direction and differences. You just say it is there. Men and women use the mobile phones equally. There is a gender issue. There is a temptation to read. There is no comparison into it. So we don't give more of any turn on to that. Mostly, I would strongly recommend, please do directional research. Directional research always supports to have the outcome available to the society. This is why we write. I know we write research paper to increase our API score, to have Scopus and Web of Science and index, but ABDC as well. But please understand the absolute core of research is to contribute back to the society. So always do a directional research, which gives some of the other value addition ahead. Fine. So this is, I think we all are very much aware about the null and alternative hypothesis. Null always says there is no significant impact, and alternative always says there is a significant impact. It's as simple as that. Now, when I'm talking about the testing of hypothesis, is it possible to test the hypothesis? I request everybody to respond. Anyone can respond. Is it possible to test the hypothesis?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is absolutely possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
We can do.
Yes, it's
It
always
is
possible.
possible. Yes, it is possible, because if we have an objective in our mind and if we are defining the variables, we have our own ways very clear. Now, to test the hypothesis, we need to use different statistical tools to justify our hypothesis. To test the hypothesis, I need to apply, for example, in our study, I want to see a correlation, positive correlation or negative correlation. So the impact of blended learning tools on the learning of the students of MBA. So I need to see a correlation. Is there a positive correlation or a negative correlation? So yes, ANOVA, chi-square, t, everything depends on the objective of your research. Now, when you apply this, and if the value goes more than 0.5, that is significant. We all know that. And if the value comes lower than 0.5, it does not have significant impact. So now testing and then proving that your hypothesis, null hypothesis, is accepted or rejected. So let's say if the value of correlation is 0.657. So my null hypothesis is accepted or rejected? Rejected. Thank you. That was a sweet voice. So that is rejected because it shows a positive correlation. Okay. But if the values goes lower than 0.5 or 0.4, it is accepted. There is no significant impact of blended learning tools on the learning of the MBA students. So my dear colleagues, I hope I made a justice to the topic today. During the hypothesis, please keep few things and few perceptions very clear in your mind. What is the objective at the end? What is the outcome in the end, which I wish to have? Do I have a clarity of dependent and independent variables? Whether I want to increase discussion on dependent variable or independent variable, accordingly, let's create the branches. And what kind of discussions I wish to have. What kind of discussions I wish to have, maybe correlation, maybe impact, maybe negatives. What do I want? And how am I contributing to the population? What is my population I wish to discuss about? So with this, I complete my session and I request for any kind of questions if you have.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Just a moment. मैं 10 मिनट खुला रखना हूँ. Light on कर दीजिए. Yes, ma'am, please. Light on कर दीजिए.
I want to ask, ma'am, by identifying population, can we also minimize our research environment?
Yes, I think we should be very specific. We should be specific for whom are we studying. What is the research area, Archana ma'am?
ICT, ma'am. Blended learning.
Okay, ICT tools. So if you're doing ICT tools, ma'am, it is like an ocean. It's like a universe. So let's find a population for whom you're studying ICT tools. MBA teachers, private university teachers, or maybe government university teachers, or maybe, let's say, teachers of an age of 35 to 45. So when you define your population, your study becomes directional.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome, ma'am. So, yes, Amit sir.
Yes, no question, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Sangeeta ma'am, you have a question?
Actually, ma'am, my research field is based on qualitative research. As I know that in qualitative research, there is like less number of hypotheses is there. But still, if I would like to identify the hypothesis, how can I identify the hypothesis? Suppose the title is give a critical analysis on tribal literature. So it is purely a qualitative research. So
Hmm.
there would be any kind of hypothesis or not, ma'am?
Good question, Sangeeta ma'am. First submission is any qualitative research can be converted into quantitative research, but that too depends on what is the outcome in my mind.
Okay.
So, what outcome I want in my mind that I need to decide. And if you want just a contribution of literature and tribal, then what kind of contribution are you looking for? If you're saying satisfaction, interest, Sangeeta ma'am, you can actually map that satisfaction and interest also on a Likert scale, or
Okay.
maybe on a dichotomous. Tribal people don't know the interest, the way of explanation. So you can just ask them, do you like this music? Do you like somebody singing for you during your sleep? Maybe a lullaby? They might say yes or no. So you can actually range it in a dichotomous question, or maybe in a 3-point scale, or 5-point, or 7-point, or 9-point, or on a rubric scale. So that qualitative will convert into quantitative, and according to your scale, you can define the analysis tool.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, ma'am.
Ma'am, my doubt is whether the sample size is dependent on getting a clear hypothesis. Like if we take a survey of or data of 100 samples or 300 samples, whether it is effective for this hypothesis generation.
Right, Sridevi ma'am, I'm thankful you asked this question, because when I was doing my PhD, that time even I asked my mentor, how much should be my sample size to have a quality research? So one thing he mentioned, what is your objective in mind? Whom you want to contribute? Let me give you an example. It completely depends on the Sridevi ma'am, can you share your research area?
Ma'am, my research area is I haven't selected a topic. I'm just a new researcher.
Okay,
It's from computer science.
computer science. All right. So if I want to still study black box testing, white box testing, or let me say IoT versus AI, itna hum kar sakte hain?
Okay,
So,
ma'am.
right. So I just wanted to study, is this virtual reality more impactful or augmented reality more impactful on the students studying in my class? So if I have a batch of 60 students in my class, if my population is 60, I'll take all of them in my research. But if I want to study the augmented reality contributing to the students of BTech computer science or BE computer science in India, so imagine the volume, imagine the population I'm carrying right now. Now, to justify 1 CR, 2 CR population, I will select systematically. There are 29 states. From every state, 5 colleges, and I will keep an intent of reaching out to at least 30 students in every college. So 5 college, 5, and 5 colleges, 30, 3 5s are 15, almost 150 students from one place. So this is, again, it goes logically. Don't run by numbers, but go logically to find the solution of your research. But if it's the same case, how many people, what is the symptom? What is the symptom which my body shows or in my family shows for, let's say, high fever, change in the weather? Then your population and sample will squeeze down. That completely depends on the research title.
Thank you, ma'am, once again for the beautiful session and helping me understand the sample size because I was very much worried about the topic. Actually, I have done this hypothesis in B.Ed session.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Most
Thank you.
welcome. Most welcome.
Good evening,
Good
madam.
evening. Yes, Tapas sir.
So, madam, how many hypotheses need to be created?
I'm sorry, can you please come again?
How many hypotheses can be created?
Tapasa, we can create n number of hypotheses, but what is contributing to my objective that we need to define? What is your area of research?
My e-banking, impact of e-banking.
Wonderful, sir. I recently wrote a paper on HDFC and ICICI.
Yeah, thank you, madam.
So, see, e-banking, you can have different banks having an e-banking. You can have different modes of e-banking, green banking, e-banking, comparison, so many things.
Yeah.
So now you again have to define whether my independent variable needs to be discussed, types of e-banking, or I need to define the customer centricity perception towards e-banking.
Yeah, ma'am.
So when you have that objective and clarity, then you can define the number of variables. Like I can very much see e-banking through net banking, green banking, using any application, for example, Beam or Paytm or anywhere. So these are different modes.
Yeah, ma'am. Hearty congratulations, ma'am, for your beautiful presentation.
Thank you so much.
You used your blended learning skills and techniques and brought us the hypothesis testing, null hypothesis. You made us reject it and accept the alternate hypothesis. The whole drive, which I was just observing. I'm a professor. I've just been observing how you have been so beautiful placing it. And your hands, right and left hands, I'll never forget that. I'll use it in my classrooms also. I'm a professor in management. So beautiful. I mean, that remains as a pictorial type of thing. It will always remain in our life. What we study theory is no use, but something which is shown in, picture type of thing, it will always remain. So I'll always remember your hands, and beautiful, ma'am. Keep it up. I do my research in corporate governance, actually, in banking.
Wow.
So I'm into it. And I was thinking the hypothesis mostly has to be based on the link to the objectives, what objectives we create.
Correct.
And then one of our friends were asking about a sample, how many hypotheses should be created. That again depends on the sample. You already mentioned the population and all. And what type, and a balanced sample will always give a good result for you.
Yes.
A good result which can be accepted. If again, we can bring our concept of materiality, which we studied way back in our accounts. We can bring that also. Is it really material enough? What you're supporting your final end result.
Right.
So, depends on the what type of study you're doing, what is the population is selecting. Same thing, possibly you take the southern region, only in southern region, how many people you're taking and all. Very nice. It's a very eye-opening type of thing, man. To be very frank, hypothesis was slightly a real hypothesis for me to understand, but today I understood very well.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful way of doing, and I'll use the same thing for my students also when it is RM to them, research methodology techniques to them.
Great. This is my ambition in life. Whatever I have learned through my life, it goes to many others when even I'm not there in front.
Sometimes and you give your real type of examples. That's the thing which you want. We don't want people to go to the books and learn Sony example of Philips. I also tell them this feel them what examples they have. Reality, what is it? Day-to-day debit and credit. I say what you're giving and what you're taking is debit and credit.
Yep. Today I'm increasing my balance sheet. For sure.
Yeah, very nice, ma'am. Wish you all the best. God bless you. My best wishes to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. So, do we have any more questions?
Is there any query left?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Hello? Dear participants, is there any query left?
Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, Ayushi, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am. My question is again on the sample size. Like my research area is retail sector. So, like I am doing a study on Rajasthan. So specifically, I have chosen sports retail sector. So, but what should be my sample size?
Arushi, ma'am, what are you trying to study in your research? First,
ma'am, I'm trying to study the impact of store atmospherics on sports retail purchasers.
Okay, fine. Because the first question which came in my mind after listening to your retail is it organic retail? Is it systematic retail or unsystematic?
Yes, ma'am, it's on organized retail sector.
Yes, organized retail sector. Then if it is organized retail sector, then if I am looking for impact on the customers who walk down or those who see it online?
To walk down to the retail stores, ma'am.
Okay, this is how you chuck down, you narrow down, bottle down your hypothesis. Okay, now you're saying impact of the retail store on the customers who walk down inside the retail store. So now it will include the display. When you talk about retail, it also talks about the display of the material. If I know that I have a Nike shoe for walking and running, but if it is not on the display, I will not get to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So the display of the items, the placement of the items, the comfortable ambience inside the store. It might not be the direct factor, but it is an indirect factor. If you imagine in a 45-degree, if somebody is walking down to your store, which is a glass covered area, if you don't have an AC, he will not stay for a fraction of seconds. He will move out.
Yes, ma'am. So
Then,
what should be the ideal sample size for the study? Like, how should I decide on the sample size?
you do one thing. My suggestion would be pick up a brand or pick up a location. If you're saying Rajasthan is huge.
Yes, ma'am.
There's so many cities. So either you select a city or you select, if you want to keep entire Rajasthan, then you select a brand.
Okay, ma'am.
And then you study. If you select a brand, then you will get limited number of stores. There might not be more than 35 stores in the entire state, or maybe 50. So your study becomes easier.
Okay, ma'am. All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. So I hope I have answered probably all the questions, and I'm so happy and thankful to all the participants who have been highly interactive towards the entire session, and it has given me.
But it's you who make this session very, very, very interactive.
So thank you so much.
I would like to just have a couple of minutes for winding up the session. I, Dr. Indu Shukla, Vice President, Student Wing, UP State, on behalf of Research Foundation of India and Faculty of Commerce, Parul University, Gujarat, and Bhagwan Purushottam Institute of Technology, Delhi, I would like to thank Dr. Charles and ma'am for her very wonderful and insightful session on hypothesis development and testing. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your knowledge on this topic. I would also like to thank all the participants who graced today's session with your presence. I hope it's been a good session for you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, it's very interactive and informative. And
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Indeed, ma'am.
Rather interesting also.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
It's very interesting. As if definitely will love to hear you more and more, ma'am.
My pleasure, ma'am. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Most welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.